bad news. We never hit record. Don't know why my hair disappeared here, but
You look like you're glowing with
see you later, face. Awesome. Well, hello, Jeff. Hello, everybody. This is the first recording of Conscious Talks. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. We're going to have a wonderful conversation. Jeff, would you like to just briefly introduce yourself for those that don't know of your greatness and glory?
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Joseph. And glad we've met each other on Earth here. And yeah, my parents named me Jeff, and sometimes I go by Jeffosaurus. That's more of my playful inner child name. And I'm someone who lives in Barrie, and I like helping people feel safe to express their inner artist. And I host different creative expression events through music, through comedy, through improv. And I just like giving people the opportunity to feel safe and comfortable to express themselves. And it's been a very beautiful journey the last couple of years of doing this. I've met some beautiful people who aren't afraid to be playful in life. And yeah, I teach dragon boating in the summertime. That's one of my outdoor adventure likings. And I love having conscious conversations. So this fits perfect with your podcast. It's one of my favorite things to analyze life. I'm a big analyzer and a question asker. So I look forward to hearing what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out for the audience, me and Jeff have only known each other in the flesh for about 2 years, I would say. But pretty much right away when I heard he loved Blink-182, and when I heard about all the things he's involved with, the jack of all trades, social communities that he's creating every day, all the time, I was just so impressed. And I was like, I need to be friends with Jeffosaurus Rex. He seems like the coolest dude in town. Diving right into it, where was your life right before the moment where you said, I need to build community? I need to help build community.
Yeah, it's where was my life?
Yeah.
I think it was taking a really long time to meet friends in Barrie that would stick around. I kept meeting friends and then they would move away. They'd go to Vancouver or they'd go to Montreal. And then I'd meet new friends again and we'd be playing guitar together and then they move away. And that might be kind of a thing in Barrie where people, come here for school and then they go to the mountains out west. So in the last couple of years, I've finally met some people. Hopefully they'll stick around for longer this time, especially with these communities that are growing. And I noticed a lack of places that you could do improv. There used to be an adult improv group, and I noticed I wanted to sign up for one, and there wasn't anything available. And I knew a little bit about improv and thought I would just, dive right in the deep end. I tend to do that in my life. And I started a little drop-in improv crew, mainly for me to practice improv, to play it, because I always found those activities gave you those belly laughs that were kind of they didn't come out a lot in life, only in certain situations, but I found improv was a very conducive to belly laughing. And so I started a little drop-in group and people actually came out and told their friends, and it's really wonderful to be around people who aren't afraid to be playful. As I was saying, it's kind of bizarre that we're just making up life, really expressing our inner childs. And same with the song circle that I started. I noticed there was a lack of safe spaces. I went to an open mic and I felt like I played an original song and a couple people were like really listening, and then a lot of people were there just for dinner and background music, and I felt like there was a lack of being the audience being attentive, and I kind of wanted to create a space where people would really listen and take in someone's art and expression. So started this little open mic night, and it's been so wonderful how many people have been encouraged by the group to go and sing on stage or to go on stage and hit a drum. And how many times I've heard like, oh, that was my first time up there. I can't believe I did that. I've heard that so many times. And like that just warms my heart and like gives me the pat on the back that I'm like doing something right. And it makes it all worth it. And it's encouraged me to learn new songs every month. So yeah, that's where I was, trying to bring people together. That's something I've noticed I have a skill at, is bringing people together in a comfortable situation and making them feel safe to have fun.
You gave me so much to respond to there. So give me a second here. First thing I want to say is um, you gave me my first time on the stage too. So thank you for that. One of many, as it sounds. So thank you for that first time. It was
Was that
wonderful.
with at
Nathan,
Donnelly's?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So that was,
you did great. And you
thank you.
practiced and you do art, you practiced beforehand and you rocked the Beatles song, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah.
Love that track. So that's fantastic. The second major thing from all that you said that I wanted to point out and bring us back to is you saw a need in your own life and you provided the solution for yourself and others. And I think that is one of the most aligned things that we can do in this lifetime is look for a need in our own lives, solve it for ourselves, and then realize so many other people were looking for that same solution. So I think by creating these communities, you really gave a lot of these transient friends that you were having more of a reason to say, hey, do I really want to go out there? Do I really want to leave Barrie? I have my friends here. I have my improv here, my song circle. I got Jeffosaurus Rex, always hosting something new and exciting. So, like, that's just perfect alignment. Absolutely. To move forward from that step where you were at to the step you are now, I'm just so impressed by you all the time. Like, you inspire me to build communities. I, you're part of the reason that I was able to start the LightBearers when I moved to North Bay. I was like, if Jeff was in my shoes, he'd have this going, no problem at all. So, just hats
Yeah,
off
that's
to you.
awesome. You got thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, you've got that's exactly it. You like you said, if improv wasn't here in Barrie, so I was like, well, I remember like running it the first few events and only knowing so many games, but I find I learn best by doing, and each month I tweaked it and I knew like what went well, what didn't, and each month it got better, and how important it is to reflect. And really, I always do that in my head, and then you can do that with other people too. And yeah, if there was no light bearers going in North Bay, and like how important that community is for yourself to just gather in a circle and have real conversations. How important it is to take action in life. I'd love to talk about that when you want to. I have a
Well,
a good
we can
story. Yeah.
move right in right now.
Okay.
So taking action, taking initiative in life. Let's jump right into there. What are your opening thoughts on that subject?
Yeah, I'd like to share a small story, and
Please.
I realized like it's a funny story because I went to Europe for 4 months on this like huge adventure by myself. It was like one of the biggest blossoming moments and courageous moments of my life, to do a backpacking trip solo and just trusting that deep down I knew how to configure the whole thing and I would figure it out as I went. And so I had this amazing adventure. It taught me so much. I met so many people. I journaled as much as I could, and I brought all that inspiration back home with me. And about a weekend after I returned, there was a music festival in Toronto, and I couldn't get anyone to go with me. So I went by myself, and which is important to do sometimes. If you want to do something like that, just go to it. It was really funny though. I had a hard time making friends when I was there because I guess I was like I don't know what it was. I wanted people to approach me. Maybe I was so used to that being in Europe. Like when people heard that you spoke English, like you you become a little bit more of a beam of light if you're in like Slovenia or something. You're a little bit of a celebrity. And no one was really approaching me, and I was not approaching other people, and I was not approaching groups, and I like kind of stayed in this cocoon like the whole festival, and it was a little depressing. And
Mm.
fast forwarding to last year or 2 years ago when I went to the Tantric Festival, like same kind of thing. I was just trying to feel out like the appropriate time to approach new people and say hi. And I did meet people, but like trying to wait for the perfect moment. And then fast forwarding to the following year at the same festival, this Tantra Festival, I was like, at the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna go talk to people. I'm just go right up to them. I want to know what some of these activities are because I want to know some info before I get into them because this
Yeah.
is a pretty vulnerable festival. And it's amazing what can happen. And the big key that I learned was, and it reminds me of when you're at a networking event, like if you're at a campfire maybe and someone's telling a story, like, it's a little easier to know when they're done talking and to politely like step in and start sharing your stories and comments. When it's like an event or a networking group, sometimes you just have to like like jump in and interrupt and like get into the flow. And unless like, gauge if they're having a heart-to-heart conversation, like, and if they're not, then like you just bust in and you have to do that sometimes. And um it's amazing what will happen that you like disrupt that you're being that spontaneous. Somebody did it at Soulshine. I don't know if you were with us, but some guy, it was amazing. He just popped in. He was like a wild coyote. He popped into the conversation. He's like, one fact and one question. What all brought you here to Soulshine? And did you know that blah blah blah? And I was like, that was awesome. It was his style. I was like, I might have to borrow that. So yeah, the what do you think about like the importance of taking action in life and being aware of like where you can take action and
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. As Wayne Gretzky says, you miss every shot you don't take. So just to have the courage to find a way to say hello, to reach out and to start that connection is absolutely essential. I can relate absolutely to your story of going to the music festival and getting stuck in a cocoon. I have a similar experience where like the universe gave me some ins. And I
right.
remember looking at it afterwards, and I'm like, I guess I just wanted to be alone and experience that on some level. Because of absolutely music festivals very intimate. You can't really hear anything. So it's like you really got to hit it off in those first few words to build that foundation. But to miss that opportunity is okay. Would you like to just take a couple seconds here to just explain what the Tantra Festival is for people so they don't get any misassumptions about that?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I've gone 2 years now. The first year I was only able to go for half of it, which they don't recommend. That's a whole other story. But um, so I've had like the experience of say almost two festivals, and yeah, I went to it for a variety of reasons. I had like a synchronicity come into my life, which was kind of funny. I was looking it up. It popped up on Facebook, Toronto Tantra Festival, and it was at Camp Walden. And the next day at my Dragon Boat event, I saw somebody get in the boat who was wearing a Camp Walden sweatshirt, which is a 3 hour north camp from Barrie. And I was like, okay, that's too good to be true. What and never seen this person before. And I talked to them. They said they were a counselor there for the kids' camp. They also have camps at the location that they do the festival. So
Mhm.
I read some books on Tantra and I I was curious more about um the intimate world when you're with your partner. And I knew that there was more to explore, especially through reading some of these books. And I felt this festival would combine similar people who had the same feelings that I did and have way more experience and knowledge in this realm. And the festival is great for people who want to um, connect intimately with other people or multiple people, or it's also about connecting in large to yourself. And, we do, there was a tea ceremony that was a whole hour and we all shared tea together. Nobody was talking, but it was about being with the tea. And Tantra is big with that, with connecting all your senses, being in the moment. So smelling the tea, sipping it slowly, feeling the warmth in your hands. So that's what a lot of the festival is about, is connecting to yourself, digging deep, like when you're at the festival, at a music festival and feeling some loneliness or some feeling like you're in a cocoon, kind of addressing those feelings of like, why am I feeling this loneliness? What is this? Is this deeper? And it provides a ton of different workshops for self exploration. And I love the people that go. They're so warm and able to talk to you about anything.
That's wonderful. Absolutely. So I guess to summarize it simply, it's a festival about gaining intimacy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
Awesome.
with yourself and with other people, in a variety of ways, whether intimacy physically with someone, intimacy through understanding somebody, or creating a memory with somebody. That's beautiful. Yeah, that could be
Awesome.
their tagline.
Fantastic. You can let them know that, for sure. So at least it sounds like, that's a festival to really go to for those that are a little bit more brave, a little bit more involved in their own conscious journey and the intimacy they're trying to form for themselves and others. So at least there I can see a little bit more encouragement for somebody to reach out, especially amongst the more quiet situations that occurred there. I know you have some more stories about that Tantra Festival. I'm not sure if you want to share any more of those now, but I remember hearing about it from you, and it did sound like a very interesting time. Absolutely. Maybe this would be a good time to talk about the retreats that you've been doing. You had the opportunity to invite me to a retreat. I believe we went to Mattawa. Was that the and
Yeah.
and you did a fantastic job co-creating this wonderful environment. We had 8 women, we had 7 men, and we had spiritual ceremony, and it was the most intimacy I've had with a group of strangers in my whole life, for sure. Absolutely. So you must have learned something at the Tantric Festival. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that process and maybe any retreats you might be planning in the future here?
Yeah, great question. That was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life too. And I love how naturally it just happened. And I feel like it reminded me of going to the Manitoulin cabin that I go to every summer with my parents. I've been going there since I was a kid. I must have been there 20 times. And you spend a week at a cabin, and my uncles and cousins will be in other cabins, and you create this little community for a week. And we have campfires every night. We walk down to watch the stars every night, and you really get to know people after a week, especially your family, and who usually you just see for Easter dinner, and you're the first like few hours you're catching up with them. But to spend like a whole week with like my uncles, you start to hear stories you never heard, even though you've known them your whole life. So going co-creating this satsang, we called it, like a peaceful gathering of people. I kind of wanted to go away with friends and do that Manitoulin experience, but with friends. I'd never really done it with friends. And um, our great friend Aram, the yoga teacher in Barrie, he wanted to do something similar. And originally I just wanted like 6 people, and all of a sudden, we were at 16 people. I'm like, okay, like, that changes the intimacy. And I'm like, but whatever, let's do it. Like, and I love like that everyone kind of brought something unique that was not planned. So I'm trying to remember if we'd played Werewolf before we went to Satsang, but I feel like Werewolf was a big thing. Just again, sitting in a circle. It's amazing what happens when you sit in a circle and playing a murder mystery game. And that game is very playful, and you take on a character, and there's so many laughs and sarcasm, and just like there's so much energy that flows through that game. I really appreciated Aram's leadership in starting the event with a nice fire ceremony and all the yoga he did every morning. Even though we were up till 3 4 in the morning, he's up 8 a.m. He's like, I want to teach yoga for these people, and I want to guide them through yoga. And I remember him, hitting the drum at 7 a.m. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience. That there was a moment that when we all like we went to do the cold dip, and then we went in the sauna, and then we were all sitting together at dinner. That was when something shifted. And I remember, like, I like to observe a lot in life, and I have a picture, but after we did that, and I was just watching everyone eating around this really long dinner table with like all 16 of us are sitting there. And it
It
was
was a
just this,
perfect cabin, perfect environment.
yeah. And I was like, wow, everyone is just vibing right now. Everyone is connected, and there's so many individual conversations, but they're all happening together. And I'm like, it's like we're just a big family. And I think that's like festivals too, when you can create like that temporary community. Yeah, it lasts a lifetime. And every time I look at photos, I can feel just what that intimacy was.
Mhm.
And I look forward to doing more of them. Clearly, like I said, when I noticed that ability of bringing people together and feeling safe to dive into some of their vulnerability and have fun in life, I need to keep doing it. And we're likely going to offer another similar one this year. And the location in Mattawa was perfect. There was no cell service. It was so much bush and kind of a private lake. It was perfect. And no one's on their cell phones. That was a huge thing, right? Like
Yeah,
no one
you
has
don't get
cell.
that anymore in
Yeah,
most places. So that was for sure.
yeah.
I wonder, because you were talking about doing another one, I know we were talking about it in the fall, like November, kind of December. Would you like to speak about the challenges of setting up these retreats that made that idea fall through, but allowed you to push through to say, hey, we're going to keep doing this. We just acknowledge it's not easy to set this up.
Yeah, yeah. The challenges thus far, like it's funny when if you have a gift of bringing people together, if you look at the photo behind me, there was probably like 30 people at that one event. That was and then I've done events in the past. I think the most people I've ever had at an event was maybe 50 at when I was doing Mo Mondays, the storytelling show. I start asking myself, like, are we to do a festival at some point? Like, is this where this is heading? And that obviously will come with its own challenges, and it's just different. Yeah, I guess it comes down to like how many people are at the event, and then the more people you have, just the more assistance you need, and the more safety protocols, and um, a little bit more organization for events. Whereas the one we did with 16 people, we had activities on the schedule, but it was also free flowing too, and feeling the vibe. I think that's really important,
Mhm.
is something, having a balance of both. We had something on the agenda like for 12 o'clock, and then we were supposed to do round two of it at 3 o'clock, but you could just sense like how people felt after the first one. It's like, no, we just want free time now. This is like important people to digest. And um I guess at a big festival, kind of back to the Tantric Festival, like there's so many activities on the schedule, and they do tell you at the beginning, they're like, no FOMO. That's like rule number one. Like, do go do an activity, and they do this whole thing at the beginning where you tap in of like, what do I need right now? What am I feeling? Do I need to just go sit by the lake and digest? And so yeah, I haven't come across too many more challenges just yet, from because I haven't done like a huge festival, but yeah, just making sure everybody's heard and what are they looking to get out of the festival, and doing your best to be a bridge to provide that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed at the retreat by all the collaboration around making food, especially. Like we had a plan, we had some set meals, but you could definitely see the gender roles of people, the nurturing nature of especially the women. Just some of those natural roles just showed up and just happened organically, collecting firewood or making sure people were safe when they went outside. Like it was wonderful to see that all come together. I
Yeah,
also,
that's a no, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. I also want to mention I heard recently about this like forest venue. I think it's over by Owen Sound, and it's like this outdoor stage where they hold music all the time and like outdoor party festival kind of vibes. And I'm thinking of our friend Nicole in Sunridge, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, how many people could we fit on there without making anyone uncomfortable? Like, can we look at, having people like you and other people perform on a stage, and have more of this like bridge between small retreat, one night stay and like full on festival. It, I'm just, I'm happy to encourage you to continue to pursue all those avenues, and I'm happy to help you do all those things, because the magic that's created when you're present and other people in our community are present is heavenly. I think it is the heaven on earth that we are trying to create. So it's right in your grasp. Keep making it, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, back thinking back to Satsang, like what made that was great with the yeah, what naturally happened, and thinking back to it, I always talk about what made it so special was like all the inner child things that came about, like, playing the werewolf game, um, doing improv, playing, what time is it, Mr. Wolf and Octopus out front, like playing these childhood games. And that's something like I've been connecting more to in the last year, and seeing all our other friends like express their inner child was amazing. It's so beautiful, because you didn't like, I joke with some of our friends like, imagine we went to kindergarten together, like what would that be like, and we can't do that, like, because we grew up in different places, but we can do that now, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
what in the fun ways, like, when you're just being playful in life or at improv, and you get to kind of sense, if you can really get deep in it, you can kind of sense like who they were in kindergarten. And I'm still learning that about myself too. Like, who was I when I was a kid? And they say like your greatest muse is your inner child. So for making art, like, tapping into that inner child is such a great way to make art.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would love to do more of these gatherings, and yeah.
So Jeff, we're back here. Can you just tell me a little bit about some of your businesses that you can promote on this show right now?
Yeah, for sure. I have a business called Your Favorite Life. It's all about tapping into what you love to do on earth here and how to be your best self. And it offers a podcast, a drop-in improv night, a song circle, and many collaborations. We do philosophy nights where you have other conscious conversations and ask questions in life. We did a recent kirtan collaboration and a cold bath sauna. So it's all about bringing people together to grow and transform. And in the summertime, I have my business, Corporate Recess Dragon Boating, where we come together in a boat to also grow out on Kevinvelt Bay through team building.
Well, that's fantastic. And I do want to point out that even if you're not a corporation, individuals are still welcome to do the dragon boating as well. And all of those events, please like, subscribe, follow all of Jeff's stuff so you can stay in tune with all the things happening that he's creating. They're all exceptional, highly recommend. I don't know if you have reviews somewhere, Jeff, but if you do, I would love to give you some reviews and help you cultivate some reviews, because everyone that I know with you, through you, loves your events. Your events are absolutely amazing. I also want to say that this podcast is brought to you in part by the businesses I run as well. Joe Company Consulting, Movers and Shakers if you need a 5-star moving business, Love Profit Consulting, and everything else I'm doing. So anyway, please be in touch about that. So Jeff, we were talking about creating communities. I really want to kind of deep dive a little bit specifically on creating safe spaces. What do you find is the big thing that you're doing that's allowing a little bit more comfortability for people that are a little bit more shy, a little bit less sure of, you know, breaking out of their shell? What's that distinction that you can identify for us, if possible?
That's a great question. Yeah. Let's start with, I'll start with the improv. Now, I learned this through my previous event that I ran, the Mo Monday Storytelling, and a lot of speaking series events at conferences and hotel centers. You know, you're in a room with chairs that are all facing the front, and it's a little bit of a tight experience. Not that there's not value in those, but when I started running the storytelling show and I received so much inspiration and education with how to run a safe and fun event, I realized like the same could be utilized for my other creative events like improv. So typically with improv that I've gone to, it's in a tight room, you know, a 4-wall room. Nobody's eating food. There's no alcohol. Not that you need alcohol, but it's a bit of a tight space, and it's very. It's almost like you have mirrors all around you, and it's very confronting. And if you're not used to being vulnerable in those situations, then that can be very intimidating. So when we do our improv at a restaurant, when some people can sit down and have something to eat, they have something to do with their hands. Just the way we set up the tables, like I love that long communal table where people they come in and they sit down and they're immediately like with a group. They're sitting with people that they don't know, but they're in a fun space that has music, and it just encourages conversation, and then you both are vulnerable together. You share that experience. You know, I welcome anyone to come to the events and just watch. That's totally awesome. And if people want to step up and try some of the games or sing a song with the music night, like I said, they're creating memories together and they're growing together. I think that's a huge thing. Versus if we switch to say open mics, I noticed going to those open mics, they were so intimidating. And there's some people who are great musicians and great singers. They probably will never go on stage at like an open mic because it's just too damn intimidating. It's like, you know, for me, I've learned it really is helpful to warm up your body, like before you go into a microphone. And I don't always do it depending on the event, but if you're doing something that's really important to you, like go in the bathroom and like shake your body, get the blood moving, because once you get up there, you're gonna start feeling tight, and it takes a little bit to get into the groove, just like this podcast. I talk about that all the time. Like, it takes a little bit to get grounded. And so with the events I'm doing, what makes it different, it's a collaborative experience. You know, some people are coming to play original songs, but they're also playing songs with other people. Like, I'm encouraging people to go up and hit the drum while someone else sings. It's kind of like, you know, karaoke, you go up and it's just one person singing to the whole audience, which can be very intimidating. But if you can have somebody go up and then have somebody sitting beside you playing guitar, it's like giving presentations in school. It was always easier to give a group presentation versus, you know, you being the center of attention for the whole time. So that's what makes it different. It's flexible. People can make mistakes and you can restart, and it's not a show, and there's definitely value into a show, and that's a whole other thing. But this is more of a place to somewhat practice and experiment. I think that would be the big word, is to try new things, try a new instrument. You know, if you've got a poem that you wrote on your phone from 3 years ago and you want to share it, like, it's very we're open to that. And it reminds me of going to like the Soulshine festivals and being with those types of people where you can have the most bizarre conversations of, you know, like, you know, I'm really interested in this concept, but it's really out there, and you're not going to get judged. People are going to listen to you, and they don't necessarily agree with you, and that's not the point. I remember hearing a great quote. You know, it was just like, you don't have to believe it, just consider it, and just don't reject it. So just be considerate, and that's like in all philosophy. Like, you know, be strongly towards something, but then be strongly against it as well, against your own point. I learned that recently. That's really cool. You can believe deeply in something, and then shout out to Jared, who came to Philosophy Night, and he said, you know, can you argue just as strongly to your belief? It keeps you adaptable.
Balanced. Another word there, yeah.
Yeah, right? Because, like, yeah.
I love what you said about using people as mirrors. I find as empathetic speakers as you are, and as I'd like to say I am myself, even hosting the LightBearers last night, I really constantly am looking at everyone just to check in, just to see how they're doing. You know, as energy beings, we're a little bit conscious of the feelings that people are portraying with their body language and stuff like that. And so to constantly be there for people and constantly giving them those reassuring looks and presence, I think it's absolutely essential. And you do a great job at it, incorporating everyone, allowing everyone to feel felt and heard and seen. I think that's fantastic, and your encouragement is, you know, par none, to encourage people to be their best, but to allow them the opportunity to make mistakes and not feel bad about it. Like, that's absolutely key. I wonder, Jeff, have you thought about, you know, getting more involved with creating these communities in other places, whether that's a business or as a non-for-profit, just heart-based initiative? Do you think that you've created such a protocol, such a prototype, that you could bring it to Collingwood, you could bring it to Midland and Owen Sound, and find people to sort of fill your role until the wheels, you know, take off on their own?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea, and I just wanted to comment too quickly on the importance of being a host. Like you're saying, it's a whole different role, and that's huge. I do that too, and I'm glad you're pointing it out that you do it. Like, you have to check. It's kind of like a somewhat of a people-pleasing thing, but also just a empathetic thing of making sure people are having a good time and are, you know. And I've noticed that at events where some of the hosts, they go and they talk to every single person if they can and check in, and like,
it's great.
I was at a party once where a friend of mine was hosting. There was like 100 people there, and I watched him. He like talked to every single person at his party because he was just really wanted to make sure they were, you know, everything was good for them, and if he could be of any service. And that's important, yeah, and reading body language and just making sure everyone's having their best time, whatever that looks like, and that's different for everyone. And to answer your question, yeah, for sure, that's a great idea. I would love to take it to different centers. I think like with the music event, it's really beautiful, like to have the lyrics on a screen and the chords, and to have a variety of songs that a large group of people will recognize. And I only learned how to do that because I went out for coffee with a friend who came to my event who had hosted similar events, and he gave me like his experience, and he was a different person, or had a different vision of what the event could look like, and I took bits and pieces of what he offered. I loved that he had said, you got to get the lyrics, you got to get the chords, even though I didn't want people looking up at a screen and coming and playing. I thought that would, that it's a different event, but it is really helpful, and it's I'm so glad I listened to him, and that transformed the whole event. And so I could totally take this now that I have all these songs and I've practiced them myself, and I can take them to different centers and bring people together to whether they want to listen to collaborative music, they want to sing, they want to try a drum, or they want to go on stage and play a song or tell a joke. We've had comedians go on stage, and we've had poets. We've done collaborative songwriting that was really beautiful and very organic. It's funny when things just happen. They just happen. Like, I had an idea. I was like, let's all do this songwriting exercise from this book I've been reading, and we all did it. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we should go up with a microphone and like share our like 1 minute spontaneous song that we just wrote. And then someone throws out an idea of like, oh no, it was a teacher, actually, someone I didn't know. She used to be a teacher, and she's like, no, let's swap each other's scripts, and then you go read theirs. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And people, if they didn't want to do that, they could go read their own, because they were like proud of what they wrote. They really wanted to make an impression. But I thought that was so cool, and you just learn things like that. When you're in a group of creative people, creative things happen. And new things happen. And I think that's the idea of like, it's similar to, I would love to explore more comedy at some point. And I had this idea, like same thing, like I feel like, I'm not someone that could go up on stage at this moment and, tell a 5-minute worth of jokes. I could tell some stories or I'd rehearse something, I could do it. But I still need to learn a lot about it. But I've had the idea of if you just bring creative and funny people together and you bounce ideas off of each other, you learn so much, and you can grow in those ways. You can go and pay for a comedy workshop, which is totally valuable, or you can get together with your comedic friends, people who make you laugh, and just analyze why that joke was funny, and share ideas on how to make this joke better. And it just happens naturally, which is great with these communities. And same with the LightBearers, right? You get together with people. That's what I always loved about going to your LightBearers event. I always left feeling like a high. Like I just got to connect so deeply. Like it felt like we're all family during it, and people were just all great listeners. That's a huge thing. And not just like with their ears, but with their hearts. They're all just like, it's almost like they're opening space for a hug if needed, and a metaphorical hug.
Yeah, well, I always offer hugs to people at the LightBearers too, so it's a literal hug as well. So much to talk about here today. We only have so much time, but a few years ago, like we were just talking about you a few years ago, earlier in the podcast, about how all these people were leaving your community and going to the mountains and stuff like that because of the seeds that you're putting in place now. If someone, close to you who's been coming to all your events now goes to Montreal, that could be your seed to have these events start in Montreal if they're not already there, Ottawa, etc., etc. So I'm just so excited about the work you're doing, because for me, it doesn't feel small. It feels very large. It feels like you're building a future framework of culture and Canadian identity, quite honestly. Like Barrie, you know, might not be in the top 5 biggest cities in Canada, but we definitely have a cultural influence from Barrie, and people know where Barrie is. And so the more, you know, big energy people that we find and we help bring this love and this consciousness to, the more it can just expand outward further and further.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know what? Something else I realized is the events are a space where people can come on a Saturday night or a Monday night or a Wednesday night where, you know, you're gonna be able to meet other people easily. That's a huge thing. Whereas, like, if you go out to another cafe, you have to have that personality trait of being able to approach people. Or you go to you go to a restaurant in Barrie and, you know, it's really loud, there's a band, like you have to speak up. It's a little harder to like create that bond. Whereas at these events, like I said, they're all people who are interested in creativity and expressing themselves. Like you're gonna meet friends. It's like it's a scene. It's a place to come and meet people in a safe way. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, and the people that come are like highlight. We had a highlight last week when we did improv where this girl came out and she said she was in the theater world. I saw her post on Facebook. I invited her to the event, and she came out, and we were doing this ridiculous dance right when she walked in, like to see how she would respond to it. And immediately she's trying to throw off her bag and her purse, and she starts joining in with the move. And I was like, okay, one of us, you know? And she sits down, and during one of the games, like she's so into it. It was so beautiful. And like I'm just watching her, and Pasquale and I were watching, and like there's this game where, you know, the audience gets involved and they're allowed to say switch to the actors. And she was so into it and like hysterically laughing, and she almost fell off the chair because she was laughing so much. And I was like, thank you for coming to the event, for bringing that type of like pure child innocent energy. Like she immediately transformed the room, like with that. Yeah, so you never know who's going to walk around that corner. I always say the room that we're in, it's like we're in life.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I remember my teachers were very adamant about reading books and the opportunity to gain more perspectives by learning about more characters. And you might have saw in my buzz clip I posted from our podcast a year and a half ago yesterday, we were talking about living vicariously. And so that's, as you're talking about this lady and all the joy that she was having, you were living vicariously through her. And that's another fantastic element of your events. Not only can you meet these other local people, these very approachable people, these celebrity type people, you know, big personalities, big heart people, but you can embody them a little bit too. You can live their lives a little bit. You can feel into them. I know, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it looked like we were all going to get stuck in the computers. We were going to get stuck in the internet. We were going to turn into the Wall-E people, you know, sitting in our chairs, getting fat and just enjoying the content. But I don't see that. I don't see that for everybody. I see that for some people. But a lot of other people are really expanding their consciousness, and they're allowing themselves to live this beautifully authentic expression of themselves. And yeah, like you're just helping so many people do that. And I just can't stop.
Thank you. Thank you. I realized, like, when you see people who are expressing a trait that warms your heart and gives you so much energy, it's like they're mirroring, like you're talking about, they're mirroring a piece of you that you love about yourself, that possibly that piece needs more attention, or you love when you show that amount of expression and enthusiasm, and it just reminds you of like, oh, like I want to become that enthusiastic, or I want to show more of that. I think that's really neat when you see people and parts of them you love, and it's just mirroring like parts of you. And same with when you see people sometimes that that you don't like it can mirror like parts of you that need more attention or need more love. So
yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it allows us to grow tremendously compared to avoiding it. I did definitely want to acknowledge that it is energetically intimidating and a little bit exhausting to go to some of these events. Is there anything that you really do to help beforehand to just get that extra energy, or is there anything you could recommend your audience to just get that little extra energy? Some people might say it's a confidence issue. For me, I sometimes I do long days as a mover, and like I do a long day as a mover, and I've spent a lot of time with my friends. I'm more of an introvert, and so you have an event that evening, and I'm like, oh, I spent 10 hours lifting stuff, talking to people, putting on the big shiny face for my clients. I'm a little bit emotionally drained. Is there anything you can advise me personally or anyone else in the audience to just get that little bit more recharge so that they can work all day with people and still be like, yes, I can't wait to spend a little bit more time with people?
Yeah, great question. You're good at this. Right? Yeah.
You too, brother.
Yeah, shout out to Joe and Mike with Movers and Shakers. I've had the honor of working aside both of them, and love what they're both doing, and I never knew moving could be so satisfying, and being with a good group of people and helping your clients too. It's I'm glad that I've helped out there. I enjoy it. You too, and your business is wonderful.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, good point for sure. Like it can be, expressing yourself creatively can take a lot of energy. We're being social with a large group of people. Sometimes, we have 20 people at the event. Sometimes we have 8, and I guess first off, checking in with yourself, are you able to go to something like this tonight, or do you need to rest? That's a huge thing. There'll be another one to go to. And you don't have to stay the whole event, right? Some of my events will go to midnight, making sure you're staying hydrated, get some coconut water in you. Yeah. And yeah, just checking in with yourself. What are you able to offer to yourself and to others? Are you gonna be more of a listener tonight, or do you want to take action? And there's that big thing of I love this is so funny, but when you go to a restaurant with a group of people and you sit down, and say it's a larger group of people, and you've found your chair, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm gonna be here for the whole night, right?
Yeah.
I found my comfort zone. This happened earlier this year, and this happened when I was in Barcelona, when I went to we were making sangria and paella. I sat down, and the group of people I was sitting with, I was like, how's your adventure going? And they weren't as expressive or intricate
as you were looking for, as you were hoping.
I was hoping to really hear their stories, and they weren't really sharing a lot, and I could hear these conversations happening from another table, and about hitchhiking and sharing music on the road. And I was like, oh my god, why didn't I sit at that?
I'm out of here. I'm gonna go sit over there. See you, losers.
yeah. And I was I waited till the end of the night, and I finally did move. But that's just a good life lesson. Same with if you come to my events, right? Once you sit down, it's okay. It's just sometimes it's fun to do that with a group of friends. You sit down for half the night, and you're like, okay, let's all swap seats, and it totally changes the vibe. And, it's good for you, and it gives you opportunity to talk to other people. So I forget why I was talking about this, just in relation to if you have the energy, or if you don't, to just judge. Do I want to sit in my seat here all night and just talk to a couple of people, or do I have the energy to explore? And
it brings up a short, funny story for me. So when I went to college the first time, didn't really have too much girlfriend experience kind of vibe, but I I had this one woman that I was trying to like, you know, approach and stuff like that. So we had 3-hour lectures with a break in the middle, and I sat beside my buddy for the first hour and a half. And then at that break, I was the only one to switch chairs, and I went and sat beside the pretty lady. And so many of the people were like, whoa, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, how did you do that? Like, can you do that? Is that legal? It was such a funny thing to do. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit, but forceful, I guess. But no, it worked out, and we had a lovely time sitting there for the second half of the class. Like, see you later, bro. Like, it was okay. So
I've totally done that at the computer lab in college, where a seat opens, and you know, and sometimes you need that like just situational, like choose wisely sometimes. Like, who do you want to connect? Because it's hard sometimes just to approach someone right away and be like, hey, what's your name? And be the wild coyote guy. Like,
yeah. It takes a degree of energy, and cultivating that beforehand is so helpful. Having a little bit of a plan, I find, really helps me. I use a tool called precognition, so I kind of like play it out in my head a few times, and that gives me a little bit more energy to do it in person. And so whenever you have the improvs, like I really have to get in there, and I'm like, all right, imagine me on speaking, doing funny bits, like having a good laugh, like. So that really helps me bolster the energy when I approach. Did you want to say anything on that?
That's a great answer. I'm glad you said that. That's a great tip for sure. And to do the opposite too of like what you just did about reflecting on an old story, of reminding you of like how you've approached people in the past and utilizing that in the future. When I went to saw my first improv show, and they were on this big stage in a gymnasium, and they were playing the most simple game, Zip Zap Zoop. Like, it's one of the most simple games, and they were inviting people to go on and try it, and I was like, not going up there. Like, that's like, to get out of that game and then have to go back into the audience, like, that feels so embarrassing. And like, and I have to remember when I do improv now, like, yeah, I get nervous slightly, or like, but I know, like, you just keep going. You just, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and you roll with it. Like, and then people forget about it, or you forget about it, and like
Connecting one-on-one with people, something I've noticed recently, and something I really enjoy, is, as I was saying, when you can look to the past and where you were and now where you are, and how when I watched improv I was terrified, and now I'm on stage doing it, and that's really helpful to channel your courage for future moments. And it's kind of fun when you're meeting new people for the first time, and you're more present and mindful with the bond that's being created. And to be for me, I like to analyze a lot in life, and I like to notice those moments where like that bond happens, where somebody shares something vulnerable, and like you're like, you feel them, and then like all of a sudden like you're friends now, and you could just feel that bond just got stronger. And spending one-on-one time is usually a place that's conducive for that, as people feel a little bit more comfortable sharing a vulnerable story one-on-one versus in a group. And I really love creating those one-on-one moments. So again, back to what we talked about at the beginning of the episode with taking action in life, noticing like out of your friend group, like, is there anyone I've never spent one-on-one time with? And you know, they might not ever reach out to you, and they might not ever need to. And the curiosity, I guess, that I have, I just really appreciate sharing moments with people in life. That's a Jeff thing, and I love creating little memories with people and learning about people and sharing stories. So I like to create those one-on-one moments, and being a positive disruptor, let's call that, of disrupting people's schedules, of like, it's important to have routine, but it's fun. That spontaneity is so important. So if you can reach out to people and be like, hey, like, let's have a tea, and just kind of disrupt their regular life, that's so needed in life. And then no, and then create a stronger bond with them, and see, they could become your best friend. Like, you know, it's funny if you're not aware of it, and then it just all of a sudden you're just best friends, and you're like,
Why do you think it's so hard for people to reach out and to break the routine? Do you think it's just the programming and what society has told us that we're supposed to do with the 9 to 5 that keeps people from reaching out?
Yeah, it could be energy, it could be comfort. Everyone has a lot on their plate. And, I probably have too many people that maybe I hang out with. So it's balancing that and yeah, it's that comfort of knowing like when you're looking to grow too. Like
Mhm.
when you find a routine and you're spending time with like people who are helping you grow, like you can flow with that comfort. But if you're in a rut, like that's a great time to like do some one-on-one with some new people and try something different. And so yeah, it's a bit of programming and but also like just checking in with what you want. I'm not, like last night, you could say I like to overachieve in life. Or I just, last night I'm like, okay, I like to read a book before bed. Like you don't always have to do that. Or I was thinking I saw a post about how impactful it can be to play an old video game that you played when you were a kid. And I was like, I never play video games anymore. Because I just really want to learn a lot on the guitar. So I'm constantly learning new songs and putting a lot of energy into that. And it dawned on me last night, especially it being winter time. It's like, that do energy. Sometimes it's like you gotta just play a video game, which is also beautiful too. I love like you can learn a lot in that too, or you can just relax and have fun and
Mhm.
find that balance and
Yeah,
whatever's right for you.
absolutely. When I find playing guitar, even just by myself, it's still a very energetic activity. I wouldn't say it's quite work, but it's close, especially when you're trying to learn something new, learn new songs. And we only have so much we can do in a day. So, of course, finding that balance and making it all work for you. I too love reaching out to people and cultivating relationships. I like what you said about being a disruptor to their routine. I like to disrupt people's thoughts. So just
Huh.
giving them another opportunity to think outside the box, ask why, stuff like that is huge to my mission in this lifetime as well, because we have so much potential that it's just, it's right there on the edge. It feels like in every moment there's like a teeter-totter between best case scenario and status quo.
Yeah, and some that's great, disrupting, adding an inquisitive question. Some people like live a very simple life, and they've not had the opportunity for people to ask them those questions. And again, like they also don't need to, like they don't need to move their mind that way. If they're curious, like, and they want to flow with however I see life and what works for me. Um, what was I going to say? It's it's interesting if you can be that leader to offer somebody a new perspective, and it might really make them feel a beautiful thing. And it might open their whole world, and to recognize that you have that little power and ability to ask a safe question. And you know, I love like seeing people open up like that, who especially people you think may not um, be that open of a person. So yeah, it's great. Keep doing that. People need it. The people that want it, they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And those that come out to your events, they hit yes, they agreed, they signed the the waiver. Let's just say,
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm giving you the floor. What can we continue to speak about here for a little bit longer? We were talking about one-on-one intimacy. I remember you did want to talk about connecting with nature. So how can we just talk about that briefly?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for giving me like a lot of the floor for this episode. For those
My
who
honored
want to,
guest.
yeah, for those who want to hear more of a balanced conversation, check out the Your Favorite Life podcast with Joe and I. That was a really cool conversation where we bounced ideas back and forth, and I appreciate this one being a little bit more of the interviewee.
Links
So
in the description below.
yeah, that was a great talk. Yeah, recently having worked with a mountain equipment company since September and wanting to get more into the outdoor world and finding like really what I desire to explore in life. And like you were saying, you only have so much time in a day, and you only have so much time during this particular life. So I know I like to travel and see new countries and learn about new cultures, and I've learned a lot about myself, and that's one of my favorite ideas to follow in life is um, someone said, your greatest gift to humanity is your own self-realization. So how much can you bring yourself to your greatest potential and like really dive deep into where you gravitate to and where you want to learn in life. Like, what do you want to create in life? What do you want to learn? What do you want to experience? How do you want to grow? So, recently, having gone to the Toronto Outdoor Convention and even being at MEC, people are always asking, so like, oh, what are you into? Like, what's your favorite outdoor activity? And like, I'm someone who likes to dabble in most of it. Like, I like rock climbing, I like canoeing, anything on the water. Um, and it's learning like what do I really like? And I think that's really helpful in life. And I love the guitar, and I would love to learn piano someday too, or the drums. I'd learn them all if I could. Um, but there's something about the guitar that really touches my heart and speaks to me. My dad played guitar. Maybe there's like that's in my blood probably. So when it comes to nature and outdoors, it's like, yeah, snowboarding like piques my interest, and surfing, and I met someone who teaches windsurfing in Barrie, which I'm excited to try for the first time. And I find it helpful for me to get visual reminders. So I make little vision boards, and I was making one last night with it feels like a elementary school project where you go through like on one board, or I just do it on Microsoft Word and then I'll print it out. Like, okay, on this page, these are my favorite things from childhood. These are the video games that I used to love playing. These are the movies I used to love playing. This is the cereal I used to like eating or whatever. And you put them all on one page and then do another one. And it's like, these are my favorite outdoor activities, or these are ones I'm really digging to try. Put that on one board. Do one of your favorite musicians. Who are the people in life that their music just touches my soul? Like, put them on a board and see them visually. Like, that helps for me. And same with actors. And recently I've downloaded a bunch of podcasts with people that inspire me in life. And I want to learn, one of my favorite shows is Lost, and I want to learn more about who wrote that show, who were their creative influences in life. So getting podcasts downloaded and listening, because it's, you already share that commonality with them. And now to learn more of their story, it's going to inevitably um, help your story and help you grow. So um, learning more about the outdoor world has definitely connected me more to myself, to nature. I went on a really cool hike where we put on snowshoes and used hiking poles and big backpacks, and we brought a wood a stove, a portable stove, and just doing that with a group of friends, like I feel closer to myself, to my adventurous self, to my store, to my colleagues, and I'm excited to dive more into that. Like, what makes you feel alive in life? We'll leave it at that. Um,
Hmm.
what makes you feel alive in life, Joe?
Yeah, anything with the word passion involved, anything
Oh yeah.
exceptional, anything that's unexpected and really brings me back into the present moment. That's where I would really go with that. One activity that I need to bring you out for is an activity I do called water walking.
I thought you were gonna say disc golf.
I do need to bring you out to disc golf as well, but I can understand that you know, you have limited time, and so for sure I want to bring you out to try water walking. You find a river like the one we walked beside recently, where it's like knee to waist height kind of deal, and you walk down the length of the river, and you climb over branches and sticks, and you know, it gets deeper and more shallow and stuff like that. It's fantastic, so much fun. You got to find the right rivers, but I highly recommend it. I think you would love it, Jeff. It's an adventure like no other.
You
And
know
if
what?
you,
I love that you're talking about that because I used to do that when I was a kid. We used to bike ride
yeah.
and we used to like there used to be houses that were in development and there would
Hmm.
just be the outer wood of the houses and we used to go into those houses when we were like 10 or 12 and I
Yeah.
remember it being so cool. We're like, whoa, we're in this house that's still being built and then we would go and like walk a river or swim in a river and I'm glad you're talking about that because yeah, that sounds amazing. That
Oh
sounds
yeah.
really yeah, a
So we'll do
secret
that.
activity.
We'll do that this summer. You also spoke about vision boards. I need to spend the time to do that, and the audience as well. We need to spend the time to do vision boards. I love making goals, but they're boring. They're kind of like, you know, written down goals, and they just they don't have the same art and inspiration as vision boards do. So great reminder for the value of vision boards. I'm a huge advocate of goals. I find whenever we set up goals for ourselves, it's just a great way to communicate to the universe. This is what I'm putting in. This is what I'm hoping to do. And for me, goals really, they're fantastic, part of planning. One of the subjects I mentioned that we could talk about if you wanted was this idea of dating in the spiritual world. Do you want to maybe speak about that? Like some of the, you know, blessings, challenges that you found, and if you want, you can ask me questions about um, my success over the last year
Sure, yeah. I probably only got 5 minutes.
at your
Um,
leisure.
yeah, and I didn't know how you wanted to wrap this up, but
I don't either.
oh, I don't even know how to speak to that because I've been single for so long. So, um,
There's always someone you're thinking about.
yeah, yeah, I find like if you are single, like it's important to find other people that you can connect to intimately in a like through understanding, through creating memories and bonding and learning from each other. Um, Looking forward to, I guess, like still chiming into or channeling like what you are really looking for and what I am looking for. That's a huge thing. Like, how do you want to, what does a intentional relationship look like for you? And a lot of it you have to just learn by doing it, by when you meet the person through past relationships, teach you more and more. The word intimacy, it can be broken down into me, you see. I love that. And you know, when you're dating, you have somebody following you around almost 24/7 in a way, and they see all your flaws and your strengths, and it can be really transformative. It can be very challenging too. And yeah, again, back to the self realization thing, like learning what's really important to you, and if someone can be your teammate in life, and how you can encourage each other and help each other with each other's weaknesses if that's a goal to both grow and do new things together and I spend a lot of time playing music and engaging in the arts so I would imagine like my relationship would blend with that somebody who also wants to spend time in that world or maybe
Yeah.
not, right? Like maybe it's someone who is like, hey Jeff, like let's go do some disc golf, right?
Mhm.
Who take me away from that world and play some video games and do stuff that I don't normally do or helps ground me in different ways where I don't always have to be creating things in life. I
Yeah.
think I think also like being single, you're you know you're your sexual energy and your creative energy are hand in hand. So like being single, like that's probably why I'm creating so much too, right? I need to express that in some way. Like I am definitely doing too many collaborations, but it's so exciting and full of passion and all the things we do. I get really excited. That was my word for the new year, like enthusiasm and excitement. And I love these events. They're great. They make me so joyful, and I love seeing people grow and come
Yeah,
together.
you just can't stop. Um, but just to
I can't
round
stop
that
dating. I can't stop dating everybody. Yeah.
just to round that all back together, using the vision boards, using your goals, creating a plan, precognition, you know, the perfect person is out there for everyone, in my opinion. And just by being open to meeting them, I think that's absolutely huge. I think a lot of us put like a little block there to protect ourselves, where we're like, they could be out there if they fall in my lap, great. But I think a lot of us, they put that block, and it's just an energetic thing that prevents us from that, final click to meet that special person who's thinking about the same thing as you at the middle of the night. Like they're out there. Right? We know they're out there. So absolutely.
Yes.
Would you
Yeah.
like?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I joke and I go, "Where are you? Where are you? What are they doing right now? Right? They're
Yeah.
doing something right now. Maybe they're on a podcast right now. Maybe they're doing a journal entry and they're like, when will I find you?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That's what the romantic in my heart's feeling and seeing. So
Yeah, the romantic. Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. This has been a fantastic talk. We've had a tiny bit of technical difficulties, but I'm sure it's all going to work out perfectly. Is there any closing thoughts you might have for us, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a shout out to Joe and Alina for putting this production together and creating something new and taking action in life and knowing like that you're have the power to bring people together. You have the power to be inquisitive and pull things out of people. That's something I saw myself too of like I always really liked noticing what people were good at and hoping I could encourage them to pursue that. So when I meet people who are really funny, I'm like, I would love to see you on stage and making a whole room full of people laugh because you make me laugh. So recognizing our abilities. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad you're doing the LightBearers. Shout out to all the people who have come out to my events. A special shout out to maybe like Pasquale, I feel like he's literally been to every single one of my events. Even though he's been like exhausted sometimes, like back to your like moving thing, you're like, no, I can't go out. Like, good choice. Like, listen to your body. And he comes out since I'm like, bro, like you can take a day off, but I guess he feels like he's not allowed to. But I'm so blessed that people like him come out all the time, and I'll give special shout outs to specific people too, like Aram and Maddie, like Aram for co-creating that satsang event and just being like a great friend, and Maddie too, like being able to want to be so kindergarten playful, and I feel like times I'm and have deep conversations about the intricacies of life. So shout out to all the people. I love everyone who's coming out to the events, and it makes me so happy to. That's why I started these events. One of the reasons was to meet other musicians and artists and expressive people, and I'm glad that you and I um, connected at the LightBearers and through Kangen Water, and yeah, meant to be.
Absolutely. It was in the stars. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining me here on my first recording for Conscious Talks. Couldn't have asked for anything better. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I think we gave the world a lot of blessed things to chew on here. So
Yeah, I hope
fantastic.
yeah, I hope people find what makes you feel alive and keep doing it and have fun in life. Have fun during this story, and like you said in the last podcast we did, like write yourself an interesting movie. And we're all gonna die at the end of this life, and you never know when it's going to be. So try and live a life where you're going to have a cool ending.
Yeah.
Whatever that's going to let you never know when it's going to end. So
Yeah, every day it's got to be a new wonderful adventure.
yeah, thank you so much, Joe and Alina.
Thank you, brother.
Till next time.
Sounds
Catch you on the
great.
flip side.
All right, take it easy.